Messages from me. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I'm scrolling. It's like BNR. Not what are you talking about? BNR announcement. There was no BNR. So
we got it. The sound is fixed. So I forgot to turn the sound up. All right. So because on the countdown, unless you and I agree to be quiet, which we never ever do, there's no way I could turn the sound off of you and me, so we'd end up talking over the countdown. So I end up potting us down, and then I forget to pot us back up.
Whoops.
All right. So I've got my recording software open. I'm going to put it off to the right. This free trial. Yes, it's non-commercial use. Leave me alone. God damn it. All right. I don't think we had a new patron this week. So it's Matt, John, Bell, Anthony, Steve, Ian, Walter, George, Josh, Zach, and Jonathan. All right, yeah. So, all right, let me make sure that this is set up. Microphone. And this should be stereo.
Yeah, my Audacity had gone back to the webcam for a second. I had to change that.
Oh, okay. Oh, that would have been. Oh. Yeah, this is not the episode we want recording issues.
Yeah. Trying to remember if my speakers were set for the Realtek or for the Yeti.
Your speakers should be set for Yeti. At least for Zoom. You don't care you're not going to monitor Audacity.
I'm talking about Audacity.
You don't worry about it because you're not going to you don't want to monitor Audacity. Then you'll get
Then so as long as microphone on Yeti on Audacity is Yeti.
Yes.
I fixed that. I'll double check.
Wow, Zoom. Look at this. They're already starting. Guys, we haven't started the show yet. Jesus.
Give us a second. Jesus Christ.
God damn it. All right.
Okay, yeah, we're good.
All right, so hey, listen, if you're watching on Facebook, feel free to hop over to the twitch.tv/PlanesTalkers. We need an average of 3 to get us to like the affiliate level. I've got 50 followers. I just don't have 3 people watching at once. So feel free. All right. So let me do a sound check on make sure that's coming across. All right. It is. All right. So are we ready to roll? Good. This is going to be good.
Yeah, I think we're good.
All right. Ready. You got Audacity up and running?
Audacity's open. I've double checked my inputs. We're good.
All right. Well, let's do this then in 3, 2. Oh, wait. Shit. I pushed the wrong button. Hold on. I didn't push record. I pushed the button on the board. All right. Yeah. 3,
Jeez.
2, 1. Click.
Click.
Attention, all Magic the Gathering players. Banhammer missiles are incoming. Repeat, Banhammer missiles are incoming. Proceed to your nearest Banhammer shelter. This is not a drill. Repeat, proceed to your nearest Banhammer shelter and await further instructions. And now, PlanesTalkers.
Greetings, salutations, and welcome to the PlanesTalkers podcast. All bannings, all the time here tonight. I'm your host, Will Benson, joined as always by my, at least he didn't get banned, although he can't play paper, co-host Aramis Perez. Aramis, how are you tonight, sir?
Actually, we did get banned. This is the Banhammer podcast.
Yes, it is. This is insane. All right, this is gonna be. You know what? We just got to get right into it.
Untap, upkeep, and draw.
Holy cats! All right, so untap.
Not anymore.
Yeah, right. Untap, upkeep, and draw. So, first thing we want to do is the same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world, which I still need to get a bumper for that. Before we begin, we want to remind you that this episode of the PlanesTalkers podcast and every episode of the PlanesTalkers podcast is sponsored by Kerwin's Game Store. Kerwin's Game Store is New York State's premier source for collectible card games, tabletop games, miniatures, comic books, retro video games, and toys. With their clean, open gaming areas available to everyone at no charge, eventually when COVID is done, Kerwin's provides a fun and inviting atmosphere for new and experienced gamers alike. With locations in both Catskill, New York, and now on the second floor of the Poughkeepsie Galleria in Poughkeepsie, New York, Kerwin's Game Store is the absolute best place in gaming. Now, they do have a nice new streamlined website. Well, it's not so much new now. It's a few months old. But you can find that very easily. Go to kgsonline.com. Now, that is kitegosamonline.com. Don't forget, you also get 5% off any online order when you use the promo code PlanesTalkers2020 at checkout. I also want to take a second to recognize our Planeswalker level patrons. We could not do this show without you guys. We appreciate you more than you know. Matt, Johnny, Bell, Anthony, Steve, Ian, Walter, George, Josh, Zach, and now Jonathan. Thank you so much for everything you guys do. We're reworking how we're going to do the what kind of bonuses we give you guys. But at the very least, we try to give you a lot of extra content with the Ride Home with Will. And we're working on the Commander Craft and things like that. So we really want to thank you guys. To find out more what you can get for being a patron, which the Ride Home with Will cast is worth the price of admission right there. It's just more of me. Find out online at patreon.com/PlanesTalkers. And we are in Untap, and it is necessary tonight. So I am untapping an old favorite, but a good favorite. 4 Giants IPA, because it seemed appropriate tonight. So,
very appropriate tonight. And a quick aside, I
yes.
think talking about Kerwin's Game Store, and I mean, everything should be open once COVID is over.
Yeah.
That should have been banned. COVID needs to be banned.
Wow, that's a nice try. That's good.
That's my soapbox for this.
You should leave the jokes to me. I'm the humor on this show, man. You're the, you know what, Chris Collinsworth tells jokes too, and you're like, oh dear God, no. Oh,
that means I'm the brains, though. That's
yeah,
great.
yeah. Like you are 100% the brains. I am totally I'm the face. Let's face it. I've got a face for radio, but and let me take a sip of this because, God damn, that's good. Oh my gosh. So, we got so much to get into, guys. First of all, Aramis, how the hell are you?
Before 11 o'clock this morning, everything was great. Everything was good. Good weekend. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I kind of might have blown your phone up this morning around 11 o'clock. I was
yeah,
like,
I
we're going to have a show.
I had gone to the back. My phone was in the bedroom in charging. And I'm like, let me just grab my phone real quick. And I'm like, why has Benson sent me like 18,000 text messages? What the hell? Banned announcement? There's no banned announcement today. Let me go on Wizard's website. Oh my God.
I mean, that's just it. We definitely could talk about that. I mean, first of all, for those of you asking, my wife is fine. I know I mentioned last week that we had a test. We came out negative. She's still dealing with a cold, but she's good. This week was kind of like we kept out. You know what? Screw it. We've untapped and upkeeped out. Upkeep is this. We're talking about the big announcement today. Banned and restricted announcement. Main one, we're going to deal mainly with standard. We're going to talk about the standard bannings and what that means. Combat is obviously going to be him and I kind of trying to dissect what decks we think are going to become the biggest and the best. And then main two, we're going to talk about the historic bannings, because there were 3 that were done today. Historic, Standard, and Pioneer. And we'll mention a little bit. We'll gloss over Pioneer. But yeah, and then we're going to talk a little bit on the Winnabox and talk about how we're dealing with that, because we did account for this, believe it or not, in our rules for a sudden banning. So we'll let you guys know what we're doing with that. So, I mean, we got a lot to get to, and I think we just might as well get there. So,
Main phase.
all right, main phase. So, yeah, nothing happened this morning. Everything was just kind of hunky-dory. It's a regular Monday. We're going to talk about the PTQ and, the Arena Open this weekend, and that's about it. And that's, Oh.
And now, breaking news.
So, legit, obviously, we're going to talk a lot about this morning. If you've been under a rock, but you might be listening to this later than Monday. This morning, at Monday morning at around 10:30, Wizards put up a little post on their website. Now, what's great about this is nobody knew it was coming. They didn't tell anyone. I'm sure they told other Wizards people, but they didn't make an announcement like they usually do of, hey, next Monday we'll have a B&R, blah, blah, blah. It was pretty much like, we're all sitting there hanging out, and boop, there it is. Walter sends me a text, which, I mean, I was working this morning, and I see the text. I'm like, and at first, I got to admit, all he sent me was a screenshot, right?
Yeah.
So I immediately thought one thing. You meme-making mother hucker. I'm like, all right, whatever, sure, yeah. Yeah, they banned Teferi. Sure they did. Sure. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go look. So I went to Google and I put in, August 3rd, banned and restricted. And I was like, there's an article. Okay. Oh, where Teferi's... So the link doesn't come up fast enough. I pull the link up and I'm just like, I literally said out loud at work, I said, and forgive me guys, we're getting the explicit this week. I said, holy shit. Because I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I was blown away. So for those of you that don't know, 4 cards in Standard were banned today. They're the big, the bad, the ugly. They are the amazing Kreskin. They have banned 2 of them we expected. 2 of them were a little surprising. They were fringe at the very least.
I would say one more surprising than the other. 2
Right.
were definitely like friggin'
They were
okay.
no-brainers. So Aramis, I mean, you have the article up, right?
I do have the article.
All right, so why don't you go ahead and give us some, I'm going to let you break this story tonight. I always break the stories.
All right, so I'm gonna run down the list. It's actually 4 formats. You forgot about Brawl.
Really?
There's
Really?
also a change in Brawl.
Is Brawl a format yet? Anybody?
Is Historic
Anyone?
a format
Bueller? Is Brawl a
Historic's
format?
not really a format either. Then again, neither really is Legacy or Vintage anymore.
So, yeah.
Regardless. So, here's the breakdown. In Standard, Wilderness Reclamation is banned. Growth Spiral is banned. Teferi Time Raveler is banned.
Hallelujah! Yes, thank God! Goodbye! Get the hell out of my Standard! Sorry. Moving on.
And then I don't know if this was Friendly Fire or if they knew something we don't about what's coming down the pike, but Cauldron Familiar is
I was
also
going to
banned.
mention that too. And they mentioned something to that in the article, I thought. So...
Yeah, so yeah, that's in Standard. We'll get to the Pioneer, Historic, and Brawl bannings later. Real quick, it was Inverter of Truth, Kethis the Hidden Hand, Walking Ballista, and Underworld Breach in Pioneer. In Historic, go ahead.
No, it was Teferi, Cauldron Familiar. That's all we care about. The rest of them,
That's all we care about.
But yes,
Teferi and Wilderness Reclamation were also suspended in Historic, so
Right.
that's something we'll mention. And then in Brawl, they banned Teferi Time Raveler. All of these were effective immediately,
which is really great, and they do talk about that. We'll get into that too.
Yeah.
You know what? The one thing that they talked about with Cauldron Familiar that I thought really kind of piqued my curiosity was he says, in addition to having high overall win rate, these decks put considerable pressure on aggressive and mid-range creature decks. Further, the number of triggers generated by these decks can be cumbersome for both players and digital play. So that tells me they couldn't code the damn thing. They were like, there's no real way to code it so that you just accept it. But also, they said to weaken these sacrifice strategies, open up more metagame diversity, and create a more fun gameplay environment, Cauldron Familiar is banned. I can't.
There's no way to auto yield to a trigger like there is in Magic Online.
I 100% believe something was coming in Zendikar that was going to make without having Wilderness Wreck. Well, that's just it. I don't know. It's weird. I think they realized something was coming in Sacrifice, or Sacrifice was just going to be the number one deck.
Yeah,
and it really was.
It does shoot a giant hole in your theory that they were going to reprint Growth Spiral and Wilderness Reclamation.
It doesn't shoot a hole in it. It actually just completely discounts it, and I was okay with that. It was a theory.
Yeah, I'm glad it was wrong.
I thought honestly, wouldn't it be great if it wasn't? Like they were like, this is just so bad, we got to take the egg on this one, because it seems like this whole article was a mea culpa on their part. They're like,
yeah, they kind of mentioned. I mean, starting from where they're talking about standard.
Yeah.
They said in the last banned and restricted list update, we chose not to make any changes to standard, which people were like, really?
Whoopsie.
At that time, the environment had just seen the results of Players Tour 3 and 4, and there's the ban hammer right now.
Yes.
I think it's going for another card. The companion rules change was recent, and that effectively banned those cards. And Core Set 2021 had just entered the format. While we saw new decks emerging, ultimately the top decks were able to adapt and retain their metagame share. No shit. After watching the environment progress for several weeks and reviewing the decklist entries for the Players Tour Finals, we've decided to make some changes to shake up the metagame. Are you talking about the fact that over 50% of the meta for day one of the Players Tour Final was Reclamation of some flavor, over 60% of day two, and 24 out of the top 32 decks were Reclamation?
Question.
Yeah.
Several weeks? You want to try 2?
Yeah, 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's like no.
They kind of like, sort of like you said, mea culpa, but also say, hey, we're trying something a little different here, because normally they give us a week notice.
Right.
And they're saying, well, nobody's really playing paper right now. Everybody's playing digital for the most part because of the pandemic and everything. So we figured there's no sense in waiting because we can just click a button.
And I agree with that.
I like that idea.
So do I.
If it's only, especially right now, I mean, I don't know how so much when paper comes back, whether or not it's a great idea to do immediate, just say, hey, this is happening and it's there.
Right.
But at the same time, yeah, just rip off the Band-Aid. People are going to, if there's a tournament happening the weekend before a ban, it becomes a lame duck tournament. Force them to do some last minute innovation.
Yeah.
I
mean, and that's where we're at right now with our guys. Our guys are having to scramble a little bit. We'll talk about that in second main. But
it's obvious that, the meta can shift quickly anyway, because these decks are figured out within a week or two of a set being sported.
And that's just it. This part of this is all a result of Arena. The fact is that, decks are not, once we find the deck, it's not like there's a lot of innovation anymore. Because I think of the ladder situation, people are like, well, if this deck is working, I'm going to play this deck. And usually when we see a change happen is when we have paper events. And, like when Autumn Burchett, when they won using Mono Blue Tempo, all you saw on the ladder was Mono Blue Tempo. You know what interesting thing, though? What's that?
In the Mythic level of the ladder, only 15% of the meta was Reclamation.
Right, but the rest was banned.
It wasn't as like when you're going through the rest of the ladder up until Mythic, there was it was everywhere. But once you hit Mythic, there was, like I said, 15% Reclamation, but there were a bunch of other decks floating around in Mythic because people on stream especially are trying out their brews and they're still crushing people. But it's interesting how the number sort of drops off once you get to that level.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious that Growth Spiral and Reclamation were a problem. Maybe not so much Growth Spiral. I think Growth Spiral
was a huge problem.
I just love Growth Spiral.
I love the card too. All the cards that were banned, I'm more or less okay with. I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of Cauldron Familiar,
right?
But I enjoy.
You're okay with Teffy?
I'm a control player, of course.
Oh no! Oh, I thought you meant okay with being banned. I mean, for me, I'm like, hallelujah, God bless America, thank you.
I mean, I'm okay. I was okay with the cards playing with and against them.
Yeah.
I mean, they were annoying, and I would rather not. But it was one of those things where it's like, all right, fine. But at the same time, these bans needed to happen.
Right.
They absolutely needed to happen.
They did. And I mean, don't get me wrong. We're not done. I guarantee you, we're not done.
I think we are. I think because of the massive scope of this, with like initially they had even said in the article they were planning on letting rotation happen. They were going to say that it's 6 or 7 weeks away. Let's just let it go, and just let the chips fall where they may. But then they somehow started listening to the community, which has been screaming for the last year about these cards,
especially Teffy.
And
nobody was screaming about Reclamation would come and go. There were better decks that would come out. Like Reclamation was hanging around, and then Throne of Eldraine happened, and then everybody stopped playing Rec and started playing Oko. And then when they banned Oko, they played Fires, and then they banned Fires, and then you went back to Rec. It was really, that's kind of what we saw, and I mean it's indicative of a bigger problem. And I think this is them kind of admitting that there might be a bigger problem here, in that
Maybe.
the bigger problem is power jumping, not even power creep at this point. Like, it's just a flat out, holy crap, you're out of control. Like, there are 10 cards banned in Standard.
Yep.
10.
The last time we had 10 cards banned in Standard?
It has to be, I think, Affinity, right?
No, before that.
Oh, one.
Tempest Urza block.
Yeah.
Back when, they banned Recurring Nightmare and Tolarian Academy, and basically Academy Winter was the last time we had 10 cards banned in Standard. Even during the height of Affinity, we didn't have this many cards banned. It was 9.
It's obvious then that, honestly, this is in no small way, in my opinion, this is my opinion now, this is in no small way a conviction on the design and testing and teams, the people that are building these cards. Something has to be done. They have to get put back under control. I'm not going to lay this at Rosewater. He's ahead of a team. Now, he may be like, it's my team, and that's fine if he wants to take it. But in my personal opinion, okay, it's gotten out of control. The power creep is such that how do we turn it off? They have to ban 4 major cards, 3 of which are rotating.
Yeah.
You had to kill, and by banning those cards, they nailed, 5 of the top 10 decks?
Something like that, yeah.
It's obvious there is a problem. And
go ahead.
It's an indicator of, there's problems going on. So what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say an interesting thing is that when you go farther down in the article, when they mention Teferi, they say, finally, we'll also be removing Teferi Time Raveler from the environment. We've often heard the feedback that the repetitive play patterns and reduced capability for interaction that Teferi Time Raveler can create can feel oppressive and limiting. Here's the part that was interesting to me. While we'd considered banning Teferi Time Raveler in past updates, which means they've been thinking about this card for a while.
We knew that. He was on a bunch of them. You were like, and we are watching Teferi. They would say
reason, and he said one reason we didn't was evidence that it was helping hold Wilderness Reclamation decks in check. With Reclamation leaving the environment, we feel it's also safe time to remove Teferi. So they basically said, they basically were figuring that with Reclamation gone, Teferi decks would take over, which I can see.
Well,
I can see that.
Control period would take back over.
Yeah, Control would take off, because that shuts off.
Control is going to take off.
Control will take off.
Yes.
In a different sense, it's not going to be tap out Control anymore. It's going to be classic, draw go, counter everything you play, or prison style decks.
And it will, and it's definitely nuts right now.
Get ready for Doom Foretold to come back.
Teferi was a problem when they printed it. We saw it coming. That was when we started the podcast.
Yeah, we were like, "Oh my god!"
This card is busted, and every time something would come up, and it started with War of the Spark brought Sultai midrange out, or not Sultai, but Bant. Well, he was hanging around in Bant. We were playing him with Bant.
Any deck that was playing Azorius Colors was playing Teferi because there's no reason not to.
Exactly, and
0 reason not to.
And it got worse and worse and worse over time. Him being gone is a good thing. And I like it. I do listen to another podcast, the MTG Goldfish podcast, and the guy Krim on there, he's like, I never thought we would get to, rotation, and Teferi, Wilderness Wreck, and Growth Spiral would survive. And because everybody was like, surprised, and legit, he's right. Like, they didn't survive.
They didn't survive. I mean, the only one that kind of surprises me was Cauldron Familiar. But like I said, that has to mean that there's something coming that really interacts very well with Cauldron Familiar, because they didn't ban the oven, and they didn't ban other parts of the sacrifice deck.
Either that, or it's like I kind of figure it's more along the line of, all right, you're going back to Zendikar, which is 9 times out of 10 mid-range creature aggro. It's not really I mean, there's combos. There's always combos. But it's not a crazy combo like we've been seeing lately. Right. So I have a strange feeling they said it right in there. They want to open up the metagame diversity.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah, no shit.
I have no idea at this point.
Yeah, it's
Ceratops is rotating.
Ceratops is rotating. Thank God. But I mean, it's definitely. I mean, we look at some of what's happening here. I can't help thinking. I'm very much reminded of the Teamer Energy bannings, where there were like 3 that made absolute sense, which was Rogue Refiner, Ramanap Ruins, and Oath of Nissa. When those 3 got banned, you were like, okay, I understand this. And then they added in, what do you call it there? The
Rampaging Ferocity.
Yeah, and you're like, wait, what? What the fuck? Why? I mean, now we understand because they were getting Celestia tokens ready. But, I mean, that very well could be something similar to that, in that, they want to kind of open things up a little bit. I think Teferi and Cauldron Familiar were that. I mean, they wanted to just get Teferi out of the meta. They said it right there. They're like, we kind of consider this an early rotation for these 3 cards. So
early retirement.
Yeah, really.
Time served.
I mean, it's definitely going to be an interesting shakeout. It's almost like we're getting 2 rotations in 1 month, because, or in a month, in 6 weeks we'll have 2 rotations, because this is almost a rotation. I have no idea how things are going to shake now. I mean, yes, you saw Wilderness Wreck all over the Pro Tour. Player Tour, whatever the hell it is this week.
Everywhere. It was half of the top 8.
Didn't it win too?
Like I said, it won as well. It was also, I remember, as I mentioned earlier, I believe someone had said it was 24 out of the 32 decks in the top 32. So 3 out of 4.
Wow.
It's absurd.
Very.
So I'm glad that they finally did it, but it's one of those things where it's like, you guys sort of waited a little bit too long for this.
Yeah.
But I'm still glad. Better, like someone else had mentioned on Twitter, the best time would have been a year ago. Second best time is today.
Right. So I definitely think that we're going to see it. Everything's going to change now.
Yeah. This everything's been turned completely upside down. There were no survivors.
I mean,
because the funny thing is too is that a lot of the decks that had emerged that were successful lately were built to fight Reclamation.
Right.
So do they stick around or not?
It's an interesting question that you ask. I mean, what does all of this mean? Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I think what we're seeing now is an incredible amount of... I think it is. I think it's a mea culpa. I think that they're finally admitting that, you know what, we screwed up.
Yeah, absolutely. They've made some mistakes. I mean, like I've always said though, I will always say I would rather have the cards be too powerful and have to be banned than not be powerful enough and people complain about being boring.
And I disagree with that, 100%. Actually, I couldn't disagree with that more. I hate bannings.
I do too. I'm not saying that I enjoy them. I'm just saying I'd rather they push the envelope too far and be like, whoops, that's a little bit too much. Let's dial it back a bit and say, oh, nothing's happening. Let's push some more. Because this is what happens when you push.
I guess you're not wrong there.
So, I don't know. It's tough. It's a tough situation. I know they don't like to ban cards. Nobody enjoys it. But this is they nuked competitive Magic from space.
That's really what happened. Like, they were like, yeah, we're done. So, you know, and
They didn't push the button. They put their fist through the button.
they really did, and I was very shocked. The biggest shock for me was Teferi. I never thought Teferi was going to get banned. I mean, after it survived through how many different sets, how many different times did it become part of the main deck?
Whole year.
Yeah.
It survived the entire year. I didn't think they were going to do another one. I figured they were going to let rotation happen since it was so close.
Right. It's incredible, and it makes you wonder what the next decks are going to be. In fact, we probably should get right into
Combat phase.
Okay, so combat, we actually have one today. We're going to talk about, and you guys are more than welcome to chime in on the chat, by the way. We want to talk about what decks we think are going to be, you know, coming out of the woodwork now. And I mean, this is almost wide open.
This is as wide open, I think, as it's ever going to be.
Right. Well, I mean, St. John Wayne asks it in the chat. He's right. It's an interesting question. Does Adventures come back?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a mid-range combo deck.
There is nothing in that deck that gets hit except for maybe Growth Spiral.
Right.
And they can play Cultivator or Oro.
Right.
Totally fine. Yeah, absolutely. The Teamer Clover is definitely a deck to watch out for. There's a lot of good stuff in that deck, and I'm pretty sure it gained some toys over the last few sets. So,
right.
Yeah, definitely yes for Teamer Clover.
Well, wasn't it playing Fires too though?
Maybe one version of it was, but it never really needed it.
Okay. Because I would sit there and say that, you know, because I mean I played it for a while. I think I played the Fires version, which was, yeah, you know, I had a
it never really needed it.
I had a blast with that actually.
And Standard Egg maybe.
So you know, Aramis, what deck do you think? Like, if you were to put we can either go macro and say type of deck, or you can actually just go micro and say deck. Like, what do you think with what we saw today?
Well, interaction is going to be able to be a thing again without Teferi.
Yeah.
But that being said, even though it was a part of the deck, I really think Doom Foretold, Dance of the Man's Control Prison decks have an advantage in this because I know.
I fucking hate that deck. I hate that deck so much.
The one problem that they had is that if they didn't have Teferi, they couldn't stop you. Now they can afford to play counter magic and interaction and more hand disruption.
How much of that's getting lost?
Just Teferi. It's the only card that they're losing.
No, rotation.
Oh, rotation? Dance of the Manse and Doom Foretold are both Throne of Eldraine, so they're here for another year.
Shit.
It might be losing. God, I'd have to think about what it's losing. Obviously, Shocklands.
Right.
But if the Zendikar lands that are rumored to be coming out are any indication, that might not be that big of a deal. It's losing Oath of Kaya, which is a big deal.
Right.
So, I mean, it's losing some pieces. I think it can survive. It might be, you know, obviously it's all those cards are legal for 6 weeks. So I think for the next month and a half, I would not be surprised at all to see a spike in the number of control players, especially either playing some sort of Doom Foretold or even just straight up Esper or Azorius control, because I don't think that the loss of Teferi hurts control decks as much as people are hoping.
No, I actually think it helps them.
Control. They can play interaction now.
Control, tempo. Obviously, for me, I was going to go with aggro. I'm gonna cheat on this and say any of the mono aggros except maybe white and blue. Maybe blue. Well, blue doesn't have aggro.
Well, blue wasn't really floating around. I mean, blue.
But
was
definitely
like
green, black, and red, especially red.
Red's
Mono red.
Great.
Yeah, I mean the fact that we have Teferi, we have, you know, Embercleave. You have, if you want to, you can play the Cavalcade version, either one of the flavors. There were a lot of toys with Theros, and Ikoria. But the problem was Teferi and really Team Iraq. You know, you couldn't get around it. The other deck, if I was going to also give another deck, but I mean, my main one would be Mono Red. I think Mono Red may go to Tier 1 now. I think this lets Mono Red become back to Tier 1. I think Simic Flash might be Tier 1.5, maybe 1. Because Simic Flash, a lot of people stopped playing because of Teferi. Because if you got Teferi out, your deck is shut off.
Simic, or even Dimir, or even Sultai Flash.
Ooh.
Actually, you know, another deck I think is going to make a very dramatic reappearance is Boros Cycling.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was gonna be my next one. Is I think cycling comes out of the woodwork again. Zenith Flare is way too powerful of a card. If there's a card that I would see people start screaming to get banned, it's gonna be Zenith Flare. I even money on that, maybe even 1 to 2. Because I just, yeah, I could see cycling was already kind of stupid especially with the tri-lands. You almost could do a 5-color cycling deck now. And
I mean, like the big thing about the Tri-Lands is they like to play their 1-mana cyclers, so they're Boros. They might play cards in other colors, but they never have any intention of casting them as long as they have cycling.
Yeah.
Like they used to play what was it? It's like Memory Erasure or something like that. That one black discard spell, and the only reason it's in the deck is because it cycles for 1.
Right. Well, NYC Steve says that deck won't survive hard control. We have Grave Hate in sideboard. Yeah, you do, but it's still, I don't know.
I could see it making a reemergence. I mean, it obviously, the meta would have to adjust to it.
I think control did get some help. I mean, control
and it's a weird sort of thing because the control decks played Teferi before.
Right. Well, you were racing to get to Teferi. That was the control deck. Was let's race to Teferi. First one to get it out wins, basically. Yep.
You might start seeing Absorb for the next 6 weeks.
Or Dovin.
Rotates.
Dovin's Veto.
Or Dovin's Veto was already played in
right.
decks that played any sort of counter magic because it couldn't be countered. So that'll be there. Right. Mystical Dispute will be there. Like I said, Absorb or
Cultivate
even
will be there.
Cultivate in the green decks.
Yeah.
Of all the decks that are currently in the top of the meta, Team of Reclamation's dead, obviously. 4-color Reclamation's dead, obviously. Bant Ramp, I think, is
I was going to go there next.
Gravely wounded.
I would disagree. I think you survive. I think you lost Growth Spiral and Teferi. You can survive that.
Well, it was really only playing the white for some of the removal and Teferi.
Right. It becomes Simic. And if you make a Simic,
go back to Simic Ramp.
If you go to Simic Ramp, I mean, the Hydroid Crises and Euros.
You lose Elspeth Conquers Death, though.
And you lose Settle the Wreck, or not Settle the Wreckage, but
well, it could adapt. Bant Ramp could adapt because it still plays Nissa. Right. Like you said, Cultivate's a decent replacement. It already played Hydroid Crisis. You could replace Teferi with Counter Magic.
Right.
And the Growth Spiral, like I said, you could replace with Cultivate, so that could survive. I could see Bant Ramp surviving.
I could see Bant Ramp. Not maybe now. It's not tier 1 anymore. I would say tier 1.5, maybe.
Maybe, yeah. Depending on how other things shake out.
Because
I mean, it would still be good against aggro.
It is slower. Well, yes and no. It is slower now. It's a lot slower.
Maybe a turn slower.
Yeah.
It would run. It would probably still run. It would run maybe Arboreal Grazers if it wanted to do creatures, and maybe do Cultivate out of the sideboard if it was playing more of a controlling deck.
Yeah. Because
Arboreal Grazer is a bad time against mono red because then they have to waste a creature and a burn spell on it.
Right. I mean, like I said, mono, green, red, and black are ridiculous. Azorius Control
sticks around. It changes, but it stays.
It changes. I think you bring the other Teferi in. I think you swap the one.
You could.
And you bring in 4-drop Teferi. I don't.
Recto Sacrifice is basically dead.
Yeah, I think Sacrifice is done. Without that cat oven, you don't have what you need.
It's the loop.
Yeah.
It's the loop that it loses. It loses the redundancy. It loses the ability to have multiple triggers a turn.
Well, to have Mayhem Devil deal 2 damage every time.
Yeah, Mayhem
like
Devil
that was it.
Dealing 2.
Yeah, Mayhem. No, and Steve, I don't disagree. Fort Fairy is not great, but it's a decent replacement.
If not even for Fairy, like I said, hard counter magic.
Yeah.
Because now you can afford to actually play counter spells because you don't have to worry about it getting shut off because of a Teferi.
I'm gonna make Ashiok Control work. You go with your bad self, Beavis.
You totally could.
You could.
You totally could. You go blue. You go Esper. You go blue, black, white. You play some Dovin's Vetoes. You play some Thought Erasures. Absolutely. Ashiok would be your win con, so you'd probably only play like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Have a lot of card draw and just flat out control and lots of wrath, lots of absorbs, counter magic, and just keep the board under control until you can plop down an Ashiok and take over. Totally, yeah.
Yeah, and the rest of the top 10 was Jund Sacrifice, again, dead. Sultai Ramp,
dead.
Yeah, I have to go with that. I think you need. I think Bant ramp. I think Simic ramp works. Although Heartless Act is a real freaking threat.
Yeah, but Sultai and Bant ramp, I think they revert to
Mid range.
They would try to revert to Simic, although I guess Sultai is hurt less than Bant, so you might actually see a bit of a resurgence of Sultai ramp instead of Bant ramp.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, and here's the thing: you could replace Teferi in ramp with Ugin easily. You know, not a lot of ramp decks are playing Ugin, believe it or not.
Yeah, I don't know about Bant ramp. I mean, how many permanents does he blow up on your side? He blows up Nissa.
Yeah.
He blows up Jol Real and Krasis. I don't know that Ugin really works.
Can you imagine Ugin in your freaking Dance the Mance deck? Yeah, God, that's just a scary.
It exiles. I don't know, because you wouldn't be able to blow up the world for yourself.
That's a scary thought. Yeah, so but I'm going to stick with my guns. I think Mono Red edges out on top.
Yeah, absolutely. Any new meta, always bank on aggro.
Right.
And this is a brand new meta.
And I'm going to say it's going to be the Embercleave version.
Yes.
Because Embercleave, that was the key. Like when Teferi was out, a lot of people stopped playing Embercleaves because you couldn't cast it the way you wanted to. Now that we can cast Embercleave again, yeah.
Yeah, Embercleave Red is back, because if you think about it, it's one of the only decks that has to make 0 changes. It just goes, okay, maybe I tune my sideboard a little bit.
Well, I think Mono Green doesn't take
Mono
any
Green
hit.
probably sticks around. Yeah, Mono Green doesn't take any hits. I can see that sticking around.
But I think I think Red will bypass it now because it'll become more of a part of the meta because of the loss of Teferi. I think where it is in the rankings is Teferi.
Yeah, and the Mono Green decks were built more to fight Reclamation.
Right.
Because they have scavenging ooze and things like that to fight against stuff in the graveyard.
I did not see this coming.
I don't think nobody did. I honest to God thought they were going to let it go to rotation, and I was okay with that. I was like, all right, I can suck it up for 6 more weeks. This is fine, whatever. But people must have been really like leaving Arena in droves. That's what I'm thinking.
I think that's what was happening. I think first of all they can see it, and I am sure that. My fear is this, and I mentioned this tonight in the ride home because I actually had a special one I put out. I haven't put it out yet, but I did a recording tonight on the way home where I just did my personal thoughts. And I was thinking about it, and I'm like, my fear is that this is a reactionary ban from Hasbro/Wizards due to the economy and the fact that maybe Arena's money is down. And so they were like, well, let's do the banning. And it's like, listen, don't forget, we are still in the middle of a pandemic, and if your profit margin in Arena is down, it's probably due to that. But
I can partially agree with that, at least. I mean, just looking at the quote unquote data that they look like anyway, as far as metagame share and win rates, it was pretty obvious that Reclamation and Spiral needed to go. Killing Teferi as a result of that, because knowing that Teferi decks would take the next step up after Reclamation was gone, was logical.
Oh, are you kidding me? Dance of the Mance would have been the best deck.
Well, either that or Azorius Control.
Right.
The Cauldron Familiar again was the big surprise to me, but like I'm saying, that means there has to be something really nasty coming with it with Zendikar.
And again, I don't think it's that. I think it's the other way. I think they want to encourage, again, the metagame did not shift with 21. Teamer Rec was still Teamer Rec. Yeah. Ban Ramp was still Ban Ramp. Sacrifice was still Sacrifice. The top 3 or 4 decks didn't move.
No, they got a couple of extra toys. That was about it.
And Ikoria was the same thing. I mean, it's been pretty much since Theros/Throne, the main decks were. Other than Reclamation came out directly out of Fires of Invention. And again, that's how we got here, is that by banning Fires, they made Reclamation a big deck. And so
and nothing could stop it.
Yeah. So I 100% agree. I think so. You're saying Esper control of some sort, maybe the Doom Foretold variants. I'm saying Mono Red Aggro are probably both going to be right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it plays into our personalities as players. I mean, I'm a control player. You're an aggro player.
Well, I'm a mid-range aggro, but yeah.
I would say at least for the first 2 weeks of these next 6 weeks, aggro will definitely be king.
And I'll tell you,
control decks usually need a couple of weeks to catch up. So we'll see. But I like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if, especially like a prison style deck, ended up showing up saying, "Oh, you've got creatures on the board." Yeah, they can't do anything.
Well, it's appropriate that this, guys, by the way, tonight is episode 69, and it's very appropriate because a whole lot of decks got fucked.
That was mine.
That was yours, 100%. But I do the jokes, sir.
That's fine. I don't mind sharing.
All right, you know what? So, I mean, I'm going to declare combat. We both kind of won. It was kind of, somebody cast a fog, whatever.
Well, nobody needs a combat. They just nuked the field. There's nobody left.
Yeah.
Everyone's dead. They're all dead.
This is a shock and awe, to be sure. Let's get back into...
Main phase.
Okay, so main phase 2. Again, we promised you wall-to-wall coverage of the historic banned and restricted announcement.
One of the biggest ones that they've ever done.
Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit about the second part. Obviously, I mean, again, Pioneer, guys, all that makes sense. Inverter of Truth, Underworld Breach.
Huh? Makes me sad. I wanted to build Inverter. It makes me sad.
Yeah. But it makes sense. Walking Ballista, Inverter. It's ridiculous. I mean, it was just... Yeah, they had to go. So, but the other big thing they talked about today was, well, not big, but the other thing they talked about was historic, and that became obvious with that. They were talking about Jumpstart coming in, and then the Amonkhet remastered, and I'm like, holy shit! Could you imagine Hours of Devastation in Wilderness Wreck? Dear God.
Trying to think of what they would get out of that, what the toys would be. I'm sure there's something.
Oh, there's tons.
I'm sure there's all kinds of just degenerate crap that would
Convoke, being able to tap and
Well, that's Ravnica.
Yeah. No, Convoke was not Ravnica. Or Convoke was Ravnica. I'm talking what's the thing you used to do for Glorybringer to make it like have
Exert?
Exert. Like usually you had to exert something but also tap like one or two to make it happen. So
not really, no. Not with Glorybringer. Glorybringer just did it.
Yeah, okay. But other ones were like tap two to exert, yeah.
Yeah, this is something that needed to happen, especially with all these new cards coming down the pike.
So they talked about it, and in Historic, they're basically saying, obviously, that banning Nexus of Fate was not enough. That everybody was like, ha! Okay, ban Nexus, who cares? We'll still play Wilderness. And they even said it, saying that while it was powerful, we were only seeing it in problematic decks alongside Nexus of Fate. Since then, we've seen a Temur Rec list grow steadily in Historic that leverages both Expansion Expulsion and Field of the Dead, which absolutely everybody called.
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry. You should have been dying if not surprised at that one. Yeah. It was stupid. I mean, they should have banned Wilderness Wreck. I don't even think you needed to ban Nexus. Like, I think Wilderness Wreck was more than enough. So they decided to suspend Wilderness Wreck. For Historic, and the other card they suspended was Teferi. I get it. Teferi this is basically them admitting they made a boo-boo.
Yeah, and that's another one of those things where as soon as we saw the card spoiled, we're like, what the hell have they done? Because remember when
we had 5 Teferi at the time, I'm like, holy shit.
And we're like, that card's already insane. And they're like, wait a minute, this one costs less and it shuts off counter magic? What?
So I understand it. They're basically saying that, it in the interest of interaction, they're suspending him. And it makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't think they're done. I really don't. Here's another deck I didn't even think of today. Here's another deck I think that's going to come out of the woodwork in Standard. Winota.
I don't know. Agent of Treachery is not legal.
But everything else. Think about what you could bring out.
You bring out humans. So what are the crazy humans in Standard right now?
Well, there's the general that makes all the other the legendary humans indestructible.
Legendary humans, yeah, so that protects Winota. So do you fill your deck full of legends?
I don't know. It's an interesting
It's
thought.
possible.
Yeah.
It's possible. I mean, I there was a Winota deck that was in the the top 8?
Yeah.
So it could be a thing. I mean, I don't know how much if it got impacted at all by the ban.
Yeah. It's an interesting question.
But still, it's just this is This is just absolutely insane.
This is nuts. This is so they're talking about other things that they're going to ban, or that they're suspending, and it's good. It's important to note that these are suspensions, so they may still.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're not. No. Yeah. they're gonna go their 30 days and be like, listen, we just did this because we said we were going to. They're banned.
Wow.
They're dead on arrival.
Yeah, I can't disagree. I'm hoping that that's not totally the case. I'd like to see. I hate seeing bans, especially in historic.
Any format, I hate seeing bans.
Yeah, but in historic, I mean, historic's whole purpose for existing is post rotation, and when you start banning things out of it, you're basically saying that I just don't like it. So I'm hopeful that they do something, I don't know. It's an interesting idea.
Yeah. No, it's amazing that we've gotten to this point where there's 10 banned cards in standard. I never thought we'd get back to this point because I remember Affinity when the Affinity standard. I remember how bad that was. I quit Magic because of how bad it got.
Right.
And I didn't feel like this was. In a weird way, it didn't feel like it was as bad, but it still felt pretty bad. Maybe it's because I wasn't the one playing Reclamation.
Possibly.
Because I played Affinity during when Skull Clamp and all the artifact lands and Disciple of Vault were legal. I played during that point, and the deck was absurd. And I remember not having fun, even though I was playing the best deck.
True.
And so it's a weird sort of thing where I'm not playing the best deck, and I'm still not having fun, but it wasn't to the point where I'm like, I don't know if I should want to keep doing this. But I am very glad that they did this because it gives me a reason to play Standard, because now it's the Wild West. Everything's out there.
And you're not wrong. And,
you should be able to go into a Standard tournament or an FNM with whatever deck you want and have at least a chance of maybe not winning, but competing. And where it was yesterday was not that.
You're not wrong. I'm going to give you that. You're not wrong.
Because Reclamation wasn't uncommon. It's not like it was hard to find.
Right. And here, I mean, what's going to happen is that, and again, paper's not happening for a while, but it still was, there was so much being done, so much weird decks coming that, yeah, like now we get, or not weird decks, but there was so much lack of innovation, if that makes any sense. That we weren't seeing a whole lot of growth. And again, I do think part of this is Arena. I think the fact that Arena gets figured out so quickly, and because of the ladder system and the way it's built, that wins count, as opposed to, playing in events, which is more like what MTGO is. They have just, you play in events and it's just what it is. But, trying to get to Mythic and having a ladder, it lends itself to the idea that I'm going to play this really good deck that somebody else found out, and this is what I'm going to play. And now somebody might build a deck to counter it and then stop because the goal is to keep laddering on Arena. It's not necessarily to go to a PTQ or a PQ or PT or whatever it is and just win. And here's another thing. I think, too, Arena is the reason that this is happening in Arena, too, is paper would require... It requires a whole lot more thought as far as triggers and things of that nature, like remembering to untap your lands. Now, Arena was harder to make Wilderness Rec 1 run for the expansion explosion, because you could sit there and say, tap my lands 3 times. 4 of them go to the cost, and you could 25 to your face. Yeah,
you could use shortcuts in paper, whereas Arena or even MTGO, you basically have to do click.
And make sure that in Arena you had to have it set to full control. And
that's bit me in the butt a few times.
Oh yeah, so I get it, but I really think that Arena allowed, because of the triggers are managed and things like that, something like the Cat Oven deck. Was part of the problem. So
yeah, there are 4 cards banned from Furnival Drain.
4 cards.
4.
Oko, Once Upon, Fires,
and Cat.
Isn't there more? I would have thought there was more.
It's 4. It's 4. There's 4 from
Is Uro throne?
Uro's legal.
Uro's throne, or is Uro
Uro is Theros.
Theros, okay.
There's 3 cards from Corset, so
Right.
there's 7. And then there's 2 cards from
War of the Spark.
Ravnica Allegiance.
Okay.
That's 9. And then Teferi's from War of the Spark. Teferi's the only card from War of the Spark to get banned, which is
Right.
surprising as hell to me.
Well, people are Narset cough, as Steve is saying. So
Narset's, well, that's the thing too. Narset's, be prepared to see a lot of Narset for the next 6 weeks.
Oh, this is going to be a thing now, the ban hammer.
And that's the thing. It shouldn't be.
No.
It should not be a thing.
I don't want any more bannings. So
Please let rotation happen. Okay, you made your point. Yeah, you nuked a bunch of decks. Let the meta go for 6 weeks. Whatever happens, happens.
And I mean, let's pivot to this because this legit impacted us huge.
Yes, it did.
Because I'm talking now about the tournament, the Winnabox. Now, thank God you and I had the foresight when we were putting the rules together. I was like, maybe we should add a rule in because they were talking about we were a week out from the banning for a historic and everything but standard. And I said, you know what? Maybe we ought to put a rule in here about a banning in standard. And then we were both like,
it's never going to happen,
yeah,
but just in case.
Just in case. And I'm glad we did. And we worded it the right way. I was worried that I might have worded it wrong and been like, for each card, you get to do a card and 2 other cards. No, we said for all cards banned, you get to swap out the cards banned and 2 other cards. I'm like, yes. By that S means, haha. Because some guys, legit. Now, they didn't have terrible. All right, it didn't hit any. Nobody was playing Wilderness Wreck that was winning. So the 7 guys left. I should pull up the deck list. But the 7 guys left is pretty much. I think I have it here somewhere. So, I think I put it inside of. Yeah. Okay. So, Sketchy Wizard had Growth Spiral. Keith was good. Mike had 4 Growths and 4 Teferis. Mark has 3 Teferis and 1 in the sideboard. Right. Ted had 4 Teferis and 4 Gross. Margraves had the 3 Teferis, and that was it. And then there was
a lot of Teferi.
Yeah. So some guys are getting 8 cards to swap, and then 2 spare, 2 other to build their deck. Now, I mean, we're running into a problem. You and I are going to have to talk off the air. Well, maybe not off the air, but between next season. We're going to go forward with that. I put a vote up, and pretty much it was like 4 to 2 to keep it as it is, or to sub of the card per rule. So guys are going to get their deck list together, resubmit. It gets a little crazy, though, because one dude's like, listen, I got 3 Teferis in, my main and 1 in the sideboard. But the rest of my cards, I would want to pull cards that are in my sideboard to my main to replace it. I don't want to, and I'm like, oh shit, I have no freaking idea how to make that work. But I'm assuming we're just going to let it go because, I mean, really at the end of the day, we want them to have fun. But, I mean, it's definitely impactful. We're going to definitely think about this next time as far as maybe we just say, what I should have done was say, we're going to play this round because we've already had 1 guy win out of the 4 that are playing. And I should have been like, okay, the lists are going to stay the same through this round. And then next round, we're going to swap them. But then they would have been able to also, arrange their deck, I guess. I didn't want it to be like a sideboard. That would be the other side of it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. But we have to think about that because, obviously. But, I mean, they really kind of screwed us here.
Well, we had a contingency plan of some kind in place,
right,
which we were able to implement for the most part. It wasn't perfect. But that's the whole point of the feedback that we get from our patrons,
right,
is that we can say, okay, this is what happened. How do you guys think we can fix this for the next time? Because we anticipated A and B, but we weren't expecting C to come out of left field and hit us in the back of the head with a club.
Right. So, and I mean, definitely. I mean, we did kind of say, and it was right there in the rules too. It's like, plan your deck accordingly, like for banning. So if you're playing Wilderness Wreck and you suspect that Wilderness Wreck might get banned, and, there really ain't a lot of cards that can make that deck work without Wilderness Wreck.
Well, because Reclamation's in the name of the deck. That pretty much tells you right there.
So I think that's why we didn't see a lot of it. We did see a few Bant Ramp. Most of what we saw was Bant Ramp and a few Brews. So, guys, get your deck lists in. We've paused play, obviously. I need deck lists by, tomorrow, if possible. So please get that to us. Get in the Discord, first of all. If you're not in our Discord, discord.planestalkerspodcast.com. definitely hit us up there. It's a whole lot of fun. It's a barrel of monkeys. But as things stand right now, we are in our, I guess this is the Elite 8 or the Excellent 8. We can't say Elite 8 because we'll get sued.
Existing 8.
But we've got Mike and Mark, Ted and Margraves, Keith and Trayton, and then Alice and Mike played yesterday with Mike winning. So Mike's already in our final.
They got in under the gun.
He's in our fatal four. But it's Keith and Trayton, Ted and Jason, and Mike and Mark have still got to play. So need you guys to get your deck list to me ASAP so that we can get that started again. Yeah, and then I think we're going to get ready to go right into Zendikar. So I'm going to start putting together the advertising for that and stuff so that we can get it out in the groups. What are you thinking? I'm thinking historic artisan.
Yeah, I think we had mentioned that last week, and we talked about it a couple more times during the week. And I think historic artisan really, it gives the people who enter the tournament a chance to be creative. There's not going to be a metagame; they get to create the metagame. And
it's going to be a whole lot of cycling.
You know what? It really could be. It really could be. But we'll, if that's how it is, and we end up doing the tournament again, and we do historic artisan again, maybe we ban Zenith Flare.
You could,
but
we'll Zenith Flares are rare, isn't it?
It's an uncommon.
Oh, frack. Yeah. We're going to see nothing but... Man, maybe we ought to just ban that out right now and be like, all right.
Well, let's see what happens. Because there are probably ways, when you go to the historic card pool, there's probably common and uncommon ways to fight that.
Yeah. So, historic also gives you the uncommon planeswalkers too, so we could see some flavor. Yeah. Definitely. All right, so we're going to do that, I think. So plan for that, guys. You guys are listeners. You're getting the first, preview here. The Zendikar Rising win-a-box event is going to be it's going to be historic artisan. So if you're playing in the current one, then let's go ahead and if you're playing the current one, make sure you get me your deck list. That's a big deal. But I think, Aramis, we do have mail. We do have a quick letter here I can read real quick from Walter.
Okay.
He said, "Hey guys, didn't have much I was going to talk about till the ban happened. Sent this at 12:05 today. I'm so happy that this happened. It opened up so much in Standard and just couldn't have agreed more. I was putting off Standard till I seen this today, so glad to hopefully see more diversity in Standard. My question to you is, if it hasn't been said already, what do you guys see in Standard and anyone play a historic tournament? I didn't. Actually, no, I did play a round of the historic tournament. I had spare gems. I played a round of historic, and I lost my ass. So."
Yeah. A lot of sharks in that tank.
Yeah, there was a whole lot. I tried playing a mono blue tempo deck, and it just rolled. So
you gotta play meta if you're gonna do that.
Well, thank you so much for writing in, man. We appreciate you. But with that, let's get a
End step.
So here we are at end step, and as Aramis and I start rolling up our playmats, putting our cards in the boxes and picking up the pizza boxes, putting them by the trash, because damn it, your mother still does not work here. We want to remind you guys that we do stream Arena on the PlanesTalkers podcast channel on Twitch, as well as CommanderCast. Look up PlanesTalkers podcast. You can also follow me on Twitch at Mindcrime73.
And if you wanted to follow me on Twitch, my handle there is ArmekWRX, ARMEKWRX. Although, to be honest, most of the times when I stream, I'm going to be streaming on the PlanesTalkers podcast channel. So if I ever do anything by myself, it'll be on ArmekWRX. Otherwise, PlanesTalkers podcast channel. But if you want to follow us through Twitter and see how we're going through there, if that's more your speed, you can find our show at PlanesTalkerPod on Twitter.
And my personal Twitter, I do have one, is at WR Benson. Now, I'm not on there very often. I'm usually just following the musical stylings of my favorite artist, Gerardo.
God, you found it.
But, so I'm trying to follow him on Twitter and really spend my time on that. But I don't tweet out much, but you can definitely follow me there. But you also should follow us on Facebook. Our Facebook is at facebook.com/PlanesTalker. Take the last S off for savings. Wow, let's do that again. Take the last S off for savings. And like and follow our page there. Also, guys, like I said, we have made it easy to join our Discord. Just go to discord.planestalkerspodcast.com. And you'll be able to get right in and interact with the community. We live stream there. Commander Craft stuff is there. You definitely need to hang out with us.
Absolutely. And if you want to send us an email, let us know how we're doing with the show. If you have a suggestion for the show, or if you want to ask for advice, we have our Ask Aramis section, which we haven't done in a month of Sundays.
We almost should take this out because I don't think people want. Maybe we have educated everyone. Although by the way, I did have somebody ask about Magic 101.
Maybe that's where the 101 can go.
Maybe
send us a question for Magic 101.
Yes.
In our email. So that way we can offer you advice on anything from deck construction to limited choices, and even, questions about the rules of the game, basic rules, advanced rules. Just get no layers. Layers are just scary and disgusting. I don't really want to know what happens if there is an opalescence and a humility in play, depending on which one came first. Your brain will explode. Mine already started.
Listen, ask the MTG judges on Facebook for that shit.
Half of them don't even know.
I know.
Half of them don't know. But anyway, if you do want to send us an email, the address is podcast@planestalkerspodcast.com.
And I want to remind you guys that I do host another podcast. Now, again, it's on hiatus right now. It's dealing with the TV show Legends of Tomorrow. It's called Legends TV Talk. However, we are streaming pretty regularly what's called Flashcraft. It's our show along with Flash TV Talk, so the hosts from there. We get together and we're just kind of building things in Minecraft from the DC universe, although I'm building a pretty sick X mansion. It's taking forever because I actually made it freaking huge, and I haven't even started the underground yet. But trying to keep the damn thing lit and keep things from spawning is a real pain in my ass. But you could find us there. Just go to check out our Facebook page, Legends TV Talk, or you can look up Flashcraft on Twitch or even on any of my stuff. So we're going to be doing with that. But as things stand right now, I think that's a show. So this was episode 69, and we did pretty good. Nice. No jokes about, but the bad hammer came down, and you know what? 69 is great, but come back for 77, because there you get 8 more.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. So, again, I want to thank you guys for listening to the PlanesTalkers podcast. We really appreciate you guys hanging with us. Come back Wednesday night. We're going to have Commander Craft, where me, Aramis, as well as 2 to 4 of our listeners are going to be playing Artisan Commander. So we're going to be playing with common and uncommons, but we'll have a regular commander. So tune in there. That'll be like 7:30-ish on Wednesday. But for now, we're going to back on out of here. We thank you guys for listening. For Aramis Perez, this is Will Benson saying, thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys soon. And remember to keep some of your mana untapped because you never know when you'll need it. Take care and have a great week. Bye-bye. And stop. And that's a show. We did it.
That was a show.
Wow, that was a show. Export project as audio file. I think I can do just one. So, desktop.
Half of the cards that were banned are green in some capacity.
Simic's ridiculous. Simic's been ridiculous. Simic will continue to be ridiculous.
And it's funny because green was terrible up until about a year and a half ago.
Oh, that's much better. I opened the door for the air conditioning because holy night balls. Okay, so this is...
Oh, we do need to make a wind chart for Commander Craft. Damn it. We keep forgetting to do that.
A wind chart? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, to keep track of that.
All right. Episode 69-WB Sounds.
Quiet, Steve. Nobody wants to talk to you.
Yeah, shut the frack up.
We don't like you anymore. Go away.
Yeah. We should change this.
Stay a patron, though.
Yeah, stay a patron. Whatever you do, stay a patron.
We hate you, but give us your money.
Yeah. So, all right. Wow. Yeah, this was crazy tonight.
Like I said, walking into the back to get my phone, I'm like, why the hell's Benson? Why do I have 11 text messages from... what?
I almost called you. I was almost going to be like, you know what? This might be a phone call day.
That probably would have been... If I had had my phone on me, that would have been worth a phone call. I would have been like, what the hell are you talking about, Benson?
You'd have been like, there's no band. So, what'd you get, a meme?
Twitter and Reddit exploded with this. My God. And most of them are like, it's about freaking time, but it's too late. Rotation's already happening.
Yeah. This is insane. So, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the show tonight. We had a good time. So, any questions, concerns, comments, feel free to put them in the chat while we're sitting here. And I'm still mixing my stuff down because I tried to export directly to my Mac and my network said screw off. But, dude, I'm sorry if I seemed out of it. About halfway through the broadcast, I started getting space warning issues. Apparently, I'm almost out of space on my hard drive. So I'm like, shit, I got to move files. So I'm like,
Whoops.
Like, this is not the episode we don't want to record.
Oh, my God. Yeah, that'd be like we're destined not to get this one out there.
Yeah. So, and Steve, I've told you, listen to Flash TV Talk, then email the guy. We'll get you in our show there, man. I'd be all about that. So, because I'd love to have Steve on that because Steve's fun. Of course,
what are you
of course,
building?
he's an air. I'm building. Well, we're building right now a Hall of Justice.
Nah, that's not what I'm talking about. I don't give two shits about Minecraft.
Oh, what are you talking about? Oh, deck.
What are you building for standard, man?
I think I'm gonna just stick with Mono Red. I never tore Mono Red and Wilderness Wreck were the two decks I never tore apart. So I'm probably gonna stick with Mono Red and tear apart the rest of it. Maybe ramp, maybe cycling.
Okay.
But that's about it. Esper Control would be fun. I just don't have a ton of the cards that you would need for that. Yeah, I didn't get a lot. I think I only have 1 or 2 Dance of the Mance. So
Well, it doesn't have to be Dance of the Mance. I mean,
yeah, but if you're gonna play Esper Control, you want to play Dance of the Mance.
Maybe. I mean, that's a very specific thing. But yeah, I'm definitely dusting off my islands.
Yeah. This is gonna be.
This is crazy. We haven't seen this in such a long time that I barely remember the last one.
I have to agree with you on that.
And it should have happened 6 months ago. We could have told anybody there, maybe, except for maybe Cauldron Familiar. Everything else should have been way back.
Yeah. This is gonna be an interesting couple of months. I'm excited.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and then probably another 3-4 weeks before Zendikar previews start.
Right. Are you playing with us Friday with the students?
I'm gonna see. I'm not gonna say no, but I'm not sure exactly what I have going on that evening.
It's paper, but it's anything.
I know it's paper. I know it's paper with anything. I got to build a deck.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna end up playing my red. I think red's mostly built. So.
Yeah. Do you play standard or just?
It's casual, so you can come in with anything.
No ban list.
No ban list. Well, these guys, I mean, they got sent home so fast, they may not have grabbed all their cards or, so I want
Reclamation Godparrow's Gift. Let's see if I can make that work. That actually sounds pretty cool.
Sounds like historic. Too bad Reclamation is suspended.
With Nexus of Fate.
Yuck foo.
I have no idea what I'm going to build.
Yeah. What are you eating? Did she finish her dinner? Okay, you can eat her dinner now. Cat's just all going to town on my wife's plate, but she left her dinner plate, and I'm assuming it's done. So
It is now.
It is now, yeah. So I'm still waiting for my stuff to copy over to the Mac, but I can do that later. So
Mine should be good.
all right. Cawblade. I'll bring Cawblade.
Oh my god.
So, all right. So, Wednesday night, guys, Commander Craft. Tune in here. We're going to have a lot of fun. I'll see if I can get at least 1 or 2 of the other guys, either Gabe or Bell, or any of you guys. If you're listening and you want to play Commander Craft with us, all you need is a Commander deck. And this one's Artisan, so make it like, commons and uncommons. It doesn't matter. And that includes lands, by the way. Don't get creative with your damn lands.
Yeah, the only rule we have is that the only rare or mythic you can have in your deck has to be your commander. Or it doesn't have to be your commander, but that's the only slot that you can have a rare or mythic.
Right.
Everything else is common and uncommon, including lands.
And including companions. No companions.
Yeah. I mean, does it water down? Does it water things down a bit? Yeah. Actually, now that you mention that about companions, that basically technically means that the standard ban list is 20 cards because most of the companions aren't played.
Yeah, it really was. This was insane. Stop, Wizards, stop. I'm not saying fire Rosewater. Okay, stop. All right.
The horse is so completely dead. It's like liquid at this point.
Yes. So, dear God, stop beating the horse. Oh, by the way, I got one other sound effect I thought we needed.
For what?
This will be for Commander Craft mainly, like while we're waiting on somebody to make a decision.
Or to come back after picking up their significant other or parent or whatever.
Oh, don't even get me started. Yeah, Anthony, Steve, 7:30 is 7 gosh darn 30. Okay, be here. Don't go pick up your girlfriends or your wives or your girlfriends' wives. Don't go picking up Granny. Get here and play damn cards. Got it? Good.
That's your only warning.
Steve's like, I've been on time. I've only had to leave for half an hour, 45 minutes at a time. Oh my God, Shay.
Food.
But food.
Food is irrelevant.
I didn't know Shay was in the chat. Well, we try to be done by 10. That's why I'm like 7:30. If we can roll right around 7:30, we're good to go. Sometimes I run a little over because I'm rebuilding a deck, which I have to do. But
especially like if it's regular Commander, we're usually done before that because Steve brings some abomination that destroys us in 10 minutes. So
Anthony's the problem child. Yes, Anthony. Mama Shay, make sure your man knows. Get your ass here on time. Otherwise, you play for him.
7:30.
Oh, I'd like that.
7:30.
I'd like that if she played for Anthony. We need I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna lay this out there. Don't consider me a misogynist or anything, but girls equal ratings. Like if we get a girl playing, show just blows up.
I'm working on Pam.
Ooh, really? Yeah, I don't think my old lady would play Commander. She'd play if we were playing Challenger decks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's always Brawl.
And she's excited about Jumpstart. We could do a Jumpstart one night. Because I've got a few decks. I did pick up some of the paper. Let me see. What do I have?
I have a total of 5.
You picked up paper decks?
Well, Jumpstart packs. I have 5. I have 5 packs of Jumpstart.
Oh, good.
I want to get more.
I've got vampires. I've got goblins.
I'm gonna stop by Kerwin's on Friday, see if they have any of that. Maybe pick up some masters, some double masters packs.
Yeah, I've got vampires, goblins. I've got 2 lands because one I got with like the thing. I got 2 goblins because I got one with the thing. Then I've got Legion, land, like I said, lands, feathered friends, and walls.
I have elves, wizards, reanimator, minotaurs, and I think minions. Ooh. Minions or goblins, one of the 2.
Goblins is fun. It's got that really powerful card.
Oh, it's goblins. It is goblins, but it's not the one with the rare.
Oh, okay. All right, so I think that's gonna be it. Let's we're gonna back on out of here so I can get the show up for tonight and go to bed at a decent hour. But guys, thanks for hanging out. It was really a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. This is a big special thing tonight, so I'm glad the band thing came down. Nice. Yes. So Steve, thank you. Anthony, Shay, thanks for hanging out with us. Walter, all the guys hanging out. I saw Devin Powell in here, one of my former students.
Oh, Devin, I remember Devin.
Let's see. Thunder Canyon's going to be listening to us on Spotify later. Kevin Cowrie. Oh, he asked if Crazy Like Aggro Knights comes in for 2 months. No.
Well,
it could. It could.
Absolutely could.
Yeah. So it's wide open.
All open now.
It's wide open.
All of this can be yours.
If the price is right, or the bitch is tight, or both, or all 3. Sorry.
Oh.
It's an old Rocky Horror callback.
Okay, yeah, that's beyond me.
Oh, dude, we should do a Rocky Horror show, man. If there's one in Albany, man, around the holidays, I'll take it. That's a lot of fun.
Never seen it.
Oh, dude, it's an experience. It's an absolute.
So I've heard.
I was a member of CAST for 5 years. It's an experience.
Yeah, I've heard it's a lot of fun.
It's a great way to meet women. Oh my gosh, it's a great way to meet women. It's a great way to meet loose women. I'm just kidding.
Wendy, get your man.
She's not in earshot. She can't hear any of this.
Hold on, what's her number?
585. Not gonna happen. Actually, I used to love doing that to the students. They're like, "Hey, can we have the password to the Wi-Fi?" I'd be like, "Sure. You got a pen?" Yeah. Be like, capital N, okay, lowercase O-T, capital G, lowercase O-N-N-A, capital H, lowercase A-P-P-E-N, 2019 exclamation point. And literally, like, you don't know how many people wrote that down and didn't realize it, and then other people would be laughing their ass off around them because they almost always did it in line.
Yeah.
And then they're like, "Dude, you don't even know." And then they're like, read it out loud. He's like, "Not gonna." Oh, Benson, you suck.
Even better are the ones that don't realize it, go back and try to log in. Like,
Oh
why isn't it
yeah, I
working?
gotta figure somebody tried it.
It has to have happened at least twice.
Oh, it's beautiful. All right, guys, we'll see you later. We're gonna stop the stream now. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll talk